Most people think that with food trauma, I need to eliminate more shit to get better. And I'm going to go the opposite way because everybody I work with, I use 100% of your data and your history to add back food. Let's talk about how I would go about solving a problem like this, right? And for me, it was, how many years have I been in practice? I think I'm hitting 28. One of the first things that I want to point out, the reason that people have food trauma, it's not always the devil you know, it's the devil you don't know. And in dealing with food trauma, no matter whether you're mast cell, whether you're irritable bowel syndrome, or whether you're POTS or autoimmune disease and you know you react to food, it doesn't matter what the underlying diagnosis is. But if you have food trauma, all of you that are level 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 50% of the reaction to the food, it's not food allergy related, which means the other 50% is food allergy related. But most people just think it's all about the food allergy and that's all it is. And that's why they eliminate more and more and more foods, right? So if it's not food allergy related, do you know what it is? What do you think it is? Like most of the time, the assumption is I'm allergic to a lot of foods and that food allergy is the main or only problem. And then you go and hit up doctors who don't believe you anyway, right? But I'm going to tell you, you're 50% right. The real reason, the devil you don't know that's causing your food trauma and food related reactions is digestion. Digestion is a major problem. So I talk about this in a ton of my trainings and a ton of my videos. People who have food trauma, they innately are born, just so you guys think about this from a scientific standpoint, okay? I'm going to prove it to you. When we're born, imagine all of us have 10 steps in digestion, and certain individuals are born with certain steps weaker than others. So those of you who've had babies, okay, or those of you who've been kids yourself, think back. When we have babies, we say, oh, a baby has colic, or we say a baby can't tolerate certain formula. Or we say a kid has certain food preference. Oh, such a picky eater. Or we even have kids who have a lot of nausea, don't like to eat in the morning. We have kids who'll be like, my tummy hurts. And sometimes we say, oh, it's because of stress. I don't want to go to school. My tummy hurts. We have kids who have eczema, asthma, right? Hives, allergies, constipation, diarrhea, right? Think about kids, and when you now look back in your own childhood and you look at your kids' childhood, how many of you guys now, when I tell you those are all signs of a weakened digestive system in one or multiple steps, how many of you now, if type bingo in chat, if that is linking your own history or your child's history, and you now for the first time are connecting the dots that, boom, that's a sign and symptom, that's a data point that my child or I have a digestive problem. I want to raise your level of awareness of that. So now what happens is with the digestion, as we go through life, those problems get worse. So genetically, certain parts are already weak. Now, what happens is as we go through life, how many of you, and I saw somebody said they had heartburn, right, as a symptom. How many of you go to your well-meaning doctors or go to your local drugstore and say, heartburn, let's take heartburn medication. You go to your doctor, say, I have heartburn, or my kid has nausea, boom, you get a script, Zantac, Prilosec, the purple pill, Pepcid, right? And so what happens with that is doctors are actually erroneously trained that when someone has heartburn, that means that they need to actually shut off their stomach acid, which permanently, that medication is designed to shut that step of digestion completely off. And how many years do we put people on that medication for? And the interesting thing is, decades later now, we're getting studies coming out that says, oh my gosh, you can't put people on these medications long-term. And there's all these other side effects associated with it. Worse disease, because you are actually taking a step out. I see patterns other people don't. I see the enemies that you don't see or you don't know about, right? It's not the enemy you know. A lot of times it's the enemy you don't know. Over time, you go into the doctor or you go to the over the counter and say, I have heartburn or I have nausea, and then you start taking medication. So then the next thing that happens is not only genetically do we have weak steps in digestion, now what happens is we actually will take a medication that will knock that step out for a short while or a long while. And that's a problem. Because when you actually temporarily or permanently break a step in digestion, then bigger problems happen with health downstream. Other things come in like environmental. What happens when we get an infection? And I'm just going to use the big C as an example. And this is why I deal with a lot of people in long haul. And and what happens is the big C doesn't just infect, let's say your ear, nose, throat, or lungs. How many people know that it also infects your gut cells? Your hormone making cells too, for that matter. So what I find is many people, when they get the big C, is that they will have sometimes nausea, sometimes stomach pain, heartburn, diarrhea. And some people will get long haul where more and more food reactions start after that. How many, and I talk to people all the time with this. Are you one of the people out there where after you had the virus or an infection of some type, you notice that your food trauma went up? So I'm going to make a link connection here, okay? If you are dealing with food trauma, food allergies, I'm going to make a connection right now and I want you to take notes. So how is people with mast cell food allergies linked to people with broken digestion? So think about this. Digestion is there to break down food from big pieces to what? Tiny little pieces. When food is really in tiny little pieces, it's really easy to absorb and low in allergy load. So for people who have mast cell histamine problems or a lot of food allergies, they have a high allergy load, which means they have big food, undigested food pieces. So by definition, everyone with mast cell histamine problems and lots of allergies had broken steps in digestion because their food pieces are too big. If you have mast cell and then you're actually on a medication to turn off the stomach acid is there to break food into tinier pieces. And now you have all this undigested food that are more allergens presenting to your immune system. And now your immune system is going, oh my gosh, there's more and more and more allergens, more and more reactions. It's like this loop. It's literally this loop, this tornado that just started, and it's circling up more and more and more bigger size undigested food allergies and more histamine reactions. The solution for dealing with neuropathy, for mast cell, for food trauma is you have to have a master's level training in digestion because none of your GI docs or your functional med docs do. Okay, this is an area that they do not really have a lot of knowledge in and have never really taught anyone else on either. So for me, I love being able to teach a ton on digestion. Anybody that works with me in our food mapping program, for example, you receive a master's level course in digestion. So you understand what every single step is, what all the weaknesses are in those steps, and how they can be fixed, right? That's really critical. To figure out the root cause that's underlying your chronic disease or symptom, click the link above or below this video and register for the training. We'll see you there.